Why are people calling neo-Nazi parades feds? Some people think it's a honeypot to catch real Nazis. They're convinced that those are not MAGA but feds. The feds have a history of infiltrating radical political groups and militias. There's a podcast called Alphabet Boys that covers some of their recent infiltrations of protest groups during the BLM protests. Members of the FBI will often try to encourage further violence and ramp things up. In the case in the podcast's first season, an FBI informant tried to convince members of a BLM group to kill a local politician. They do similar things with right-wing groups. The kidnapping plot of Governor Whitmore was almost brought to fruition by a group run by a federal informant. Naturally, this doesn't mean all radicals, right-wing or left-wing, are feds. However, this history has made it awfully easy for people to write off the actions of any radical group as a false flag. It's awfully similar to how the plan laid out by Operation Northwoods, a plan for a series of false flag attacks carried out by the government against the US and its citizens to create a false pretense for open war with Cuba, lead to 9/11 theories. I'm not a fan of these types of conspiracy theories, but as someone who loves reading FOIA releases about how the FBI and CIA have completely infiltrated or fought against any social or political group that threatens the status quo, for better or worse, it's hard not to imagine they'd keep doing the same thing. You notice how proud they are of their beliefs, that they cover their faces? Spineless twits. Half of them are feds. The other half are cops on their days off. Some people will point at super inflammatory people and claim that they aren't real, sincere people, but instead agents from somewhere just trying to stir up shit to push a narrative. Like many MAGA people who never went to any violent protests or were violent themselves will claim that the violent MAGA people are actually feds planted to try and make the MAGA crowd look bad. Basic human psychology. People tend to resist the idea that anybody in their group could do evil, so they project it into their outgroup. They believe that underneath the masks there are law enforcement officers pretending to be Nazis. The sad part is, there are probably cops under the masks. They're just not pretending. Some of those that work forces are the same that burn crosses. This is common practice to them. In the days after January 6th, everyone was claiming it was Antifa, BLM and or feds agitating. Later on, some of the rioters involved were angry that people didn't believe it was them who did the rioting in a sort of display of pride. This article sums up the situation back then pretty well and can shed some light onto the current situation. https://news.yahoo.com/gen-6-riders-far-claim-130000704.html. Because government using their law enforcement agencies to agitate and manipulate public sentiments is a long-standing practice, one people can't seem to help falling for over and over again. RCMP pull the same shit in Canada. Because 1. These guys all looked young and fit. 2. They all left in a U-Haul truck. 3. They didn't stick around and answer questions. 4. They didn't show their faces. 5. There's no particular event or reason for them to march on February 17th, it was just a random day. Alex Jones regularly claims that stuff like this is a false flag operation put on by the federal government because that allows him to pretend it's not his cronies doing it. I recommend the podcast Knowledge Fight, which breaks down Alex Jones's InfoWars, if you want to understand that mindset. Anything that makes them look bad is a psyop. I'm a moderate conservative. I've been involved in conversations about these groups. I think they get the impression that these are not organic organizations because they never recruit from mainstream conservative organizations. The conversation among conservatives goes something like, "You ever heard of these guys?" "Me either." Then there are the curious commonalities among the members. There are never any fat guys with shaggy hair and beards, like you would find in virtually every conservative group. especially those with a redneck slant. The neo-Nazis are always young, buff, and meticulously groomed. Either they are very particular about the physical appearance of the people they recruit, or they already belong to a group that has physical appearance standards. Federal law enforcement agencies have grooming, fitness, and BMI standards that have to be met and maintained, so they make a natural target for accusations of involvement. Of course, this is all just anecdotal and or circumstantial, but it's the natural product of thinking that follows the line, if I don't know these guys, then who are they? See, they want to be Nazis, and they enjoy being Nazis, but somewhere in their deep moronic subconscious, they remember that it might be considered bad to be Nazis, so they have decided it's the feds dressed up as Nazis. Which, if they have decided it's not okay to be Nazis, there's an easier remedy: misdirection. Yeah, I've had friends saying they were actors faced with rolling eyes. Because people don't want to believe that Nazis are gaining more mainstream attention and traction as they have been out and about the past couple years marching in different states, and people thought they would magically go away when Trump left. They're not getting the same pushback publicly like in the Trump presidency years. A lack of urgency and disorganization to counter-protest them is why you're seeing these scum out and about ennobled in the way they are. If it's feds, then they should be arrested and exposed. Simple.